I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. On Wednesday, the Senate will vote on adding Finland and Sweden to NATO. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell took to the Senate floor to urge fellow senators to support the move, saying it, quote, will only strengthen the most successful military alliance in human history. Ratification of the membership applications in the U.S. will require more than two-thirds support from the Senate. It is widely expected to pass after more than 80 senators formally expressed their support for Finland and Sweden's accession in May.
Tragic flooding continues to devastate eastern Kentucky. In the last few days, I've spoken to state legislators and county judge executives who represent our hardest hit counties. The governor reports that Knott County has seen the largest loss of life so far. County Judge Dobson tells me the toll may keep rising in the coming days. State Representative Chris Fugate represents Breathitt, Owsley, and Perry counties. He tells me he's housing about 85 people in his church, and the need for shelter for displaced residents will only grow. State Senator Johnny Turner represents 5 counties, including Knott and Letcher. He plans to use his own equipment to help clear debris from the roads. All across eastern Kentucky, emergency crews are making a Herculean effort to restore access to power, roads, and running water. The Kentucky National Guard has been on the ground and in the air since the outset of this emergency, performing breathtaking rescues and rendering aid. Some of their amazing work was captured on video. Residents stranded on the roofs of submerged houses were pulled hundreds of feet into the air on a cable and into a helicopter. Just extraordinary work. I'm deeply grateful for the brave men and women of the Kentucky National Guard and their service to our state. As professional first responders work around the clock, families, friends, and neighbors are stepping up as well. One man's actions have attracted national attention. On Thursday, an anonymous neighbor helped a family of 3 escape their flooded home. Video footage showed a 98-year-old grandmother sitting on a bed fully submerged in water. This anonymous rescuer whisked that woman, her son, and her grandson to safety. All 3 are now recovering. Federal, state, and local officials will continue to do everything possible and coordinate rescue and relief efforts. All these courageous acts from professionals and ordinary Kentuckians alike will continue to provide a hopeful glimmer of humanity in this dark, dark disaster. Now, on an entirely different matter, today the Senate will approve ratification protocols to welcome Finland and Sweden as the 2 newest members of NATO. I appreciate Leader Schumer working with me to ensure the Senate takes this vote before the August recess. And for the reasons I've explained for months now, the vote this afternoon will be as decisive as it is bipartisan. There's just no question that admitting these robust democratic countries with modern economies and capable, interoperable militaries will only strengthen the most successful military alliance in human history. Both countries already participate in NATO and American-led missions. Finland already meets NATO's 2% spending target, and Sweden is making significant investments in modernizing its military. Even with the capabilities these militaries already have, they will bring meaningful, interoperable military capabilities into the alliance on day one and improve burden sharing across the alliance. There's also no question that their entry is specifically in our interest. These are long-standing defense partners of the United States. The Finns have been flying F-18s and buying sophisticated American munitions since the 1990s. The Swedish defense industry cooperates closely with ours and incorporates American components into modern systems like their fighter aircraft. Even closer cooperation with these partners will help us counter Russia and China. Their accession will make NATO stronger and America more secure. If any senator is looking for a defensible excuse to vote no, I wish them good luck. This is a slam dunk for national security that deserves unanimous bipartisan support. Now, on one final matter, Democrats want to pass huge job-killing tax hikes in the middle of a recession that they themselves created. Hundreds of billions of dollars in new taxes on American jobs, American manufacturing, American electricity, and American investment. Nonpartisan experts have proven these tax hikes will break President Biden's promise not to raise taxes on the middle class. The working class and the middle class will shoulder huge, huge new burdens. And all these tax hikes would buy American families no relief whatsoever from inflation. Nonpartisan experts say Democrats' bill would make inflation actually even worse until 2024, and they do basically nothing to inflation thereafter, in the teeth of the inflation crisis. Democrats' bill would make inflation even worse over the next 2 years. Even the most optimistic estimate, the best figures for Democrats, say it would take their legislation, listen to this, 9 years to unwind as much inflation as the country added every week in the month of June. 9 years of runaway taxing and spending in order to subtract 1 week's worth of inflation. And that is an optimistic projection. Obviously, the point of this bill is not to reduce inflation. Clearly, this taxing and spending spree has a different purpose. And when you look at the legislation, the real purpose is absolutely clear. This bill is a massive goodie bag of far-left environmental activists at the expense of working families. Democrats want to use their own inflation as a pretext to dump hundreds of billions of dollars into Green New Deal nonsense. This bill declares war on American energy independence and affordability. It will push working families' bills higher in order to send cash kickbacks to rich elites if they buy fancy cars and redo their kitchens. Democrats literally want to increase working families' gas bill, electricity bill, and heating bill so they can send rebates to rich people who buy $80,000 luxury electric cars. I'm not making this up. They've come up with a huge new tax on American natural gas, which millions of Americans use to heat their homes, cook their food, and dry their clothes. On top of that, natural gas is the nation's largest source of electricity. So Democrats want to add new taxes on top of two of the major bills that millions of American working families pay every month. That's not all. There's also a new per-barrel tax on American oil and new royalties and fees to drive up the cost of oil and gas production on federal lands. With all the money they collect from shaking down American families, Democrats want to finance new credits for people who can afford to buy fancy new cars, stoves, and clothes dryers. Why? Because that's really green. Subsidizing retail therapy for liberal elites to rip out working appliances, throw them away, and replace them with the latest fashions. We've got the worst inflation in 40 years right now. Working families can barely afford gas and groceries right now. And Democrats' answer is to offer them a mail-in rebate if they buy an $80,000 car or remodel their kitchen. A specific subsidy for electric car buyers that the senior senator from West Virginia once called ludicrous is in this bill, which he's now authored. Oh, and the bill tries to skirt a Supreme Court victory that West Virginia just won to stop Democrats' illegal regulations from crushing the state's economy. The legislation intentionally flouts the victory the people of West Virginia just won a few weeks ago at the Supreme Court. There's billions of dollars for environmental and climate justice block grants to directly enrich far-left nonprofits including explicit language that would send taxpayer funding to political activism. Democrats literally want to raise your electric bill in order to pay off their own protesters. I guess the people who stand in the middle of highways during rush hour to make some protest gesture now want to receive taxpayer money for their trouble. And their bill would send billions of dollars to the Secretary of Transportation. Billions of dollars to the Secretary of Transportation to tear up highways instead of building more highways. If that's not enough, here's the kicker. All of this expensive nonsense adds up to no meaningful impact whatsoever. All of these hundreds of billions of dollars to bankroll new appliances for rich people will not put so much as a dent in worldwide emissions or temperatures. The Washington Post admitted on Monday this legislation can scarcely be expected to have an immediate measurable impact on the warming planet. Huge developing countries like China and India are dramatically increasing their emissions every year, even according to liberals' own modeling. This bill that is supposedly worth looting the American people would have basically no measurable impact on global warming whatsoever. Liberal waste, subsidies for the rich, and according to their very own models, no meaningful impact on the climate. So I guess Democrats think their 30% approval rating on the economy is actually still too high.